All right, I want to talk about my opinion on the great red state versus blue state debate between Ron DeSantis from Florida and Gavin Newsom from California. I think Ron DeSantis was much more measured. He came with the facts. He came with some great props. And look, I am a Trump guy. I have not made that. I have not hidden that fact. But uh, I was proud of Ron DeSantis and the way he represented our side of the aisle in this debate. Let's check out some highlights.
The role of the schools to educate kids, not indoctrinate kids. It's not to impose an agenda. It's to do the basics. And what we've said in Florida is it's inappropriate to tell a kindergartner that their gender is a choice. It's inappropriate to tell a second grader that they may have been born in the wrong body. Now, California has that. They want to have that injected into the elementary school. My wife and I have a 7-5 and a 3-year-old. We don't think that that's appropriate. And I know most parents do not think it's appropriate. It's also important to respect parental rights to know what curriculum is being used in the classroom, and everything should be age appropriate. I actually have something that I brought that some parents have objected to. So this is a book that's in some of the schools in California. Florida, this is not consistent with our standards, called Gender Queer. Some of it's blacked out. You would not probably be able to put this on air. This is pornography. It's cartoons. It's aimed at children, and it's wrong. So this should not be in schools. When people like on the left say that somehow you're banning books by removing this from a young kid's classroom, no, this is not age appropriate. And so we're going to stand for the rights of parents. I think we need to do that nationwide. I don't think you can have a situation where some states just trample on the rights of parents. Parents have a fundamental right to direct the education and upbringing of their kids.
I mean, how can you argue with that? I mean, only a radical left-wing lunatic will want the government to control what the schools and the school system to dictate and control the kids and what goes into their minds. I mean, he came with a great prop here, showing what's being taught in these schools in California, what's inside the curriculum or in the libraries. When I was in school, in elementary school, we didn't have these kinds of things. I didn't see this at all. But this is how you indoctrinate kids and how you brainwash them to be a certain way, how to make them confused. But Ron DeSantis did very well with this right here, and Gavin Newsom didn't really have a great response for this. Look, even if whether you have kids or not, this is something that you can agree with right here. Now, he also further went on Newsom on this issue of puberty blockers and gender surgeries, I should say.
About parents' rights, because he says California respects parents' rights. This is rich. He's been telling a lot of whoppers tonight. This may be the biggest. In California, if you're a parent in Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina, your minor child can go to California without your knowledge or without your consent and get hormone therapy, puberty blockers, and a sex change operation, all without you knowing or consenting. How in the heck is that honoring parents' rights when you're bringing people from out of state to go around their parents' backs and getting life-altering surgeries? That is radical. That is
Ron,
extreme.
these kids
That is an assault on parents' rights.
You know what, Ron?
It's not for you to decide. It's for the parents to decide. And the parents do not want their kids going to these other things.
Let me go to a follow-up.
And see, I did a story about that many months ago. There was a mother who brought her son. The mother and father had a custody thing going on, and the mother ran off with the son to California so he can have a sex change. Pretty scary stuff, actually, but great job from DeSantis for bringing this up, and Newsom really didn't have a great response for that, and he exposed Newsom and the state of California on this issue. And he goes even further on what is going on in California and why Florida is a better run place. Let's check it out. Again, more props.
This is a map of San Francisco. There's a lot of plots on that. You may be asking, what is that plotting? Well, this is an app where they plot the human feces that are found on the streets of San Francisco. And you see how almost the whole thing is covered, because that is what has happened in one of the previous greatest cities this country's ever had. Human feces is now a fact of life, except when a communist dictator comes to town. Then they cleaned up the streets. They lined the streets with Chinese flags. They didn't put American flags there. They cleaned everything up. So they're willing to do it for a communist dictator, but they're not willing to do it for their own people.
I want to get
Again, I mean, another great point. You have this map of, you know what, waste, how to get around it in a great, I guess what was once a great American city. I don't know if it still is. I've never been in San Francisco, but with things I'm seeing now, the way it's being run, the carjackings, the human waste on the streets, the homeless people, and all those things that are going on in that city, that is a perfect example of liberalism taking over a great city, which I would have loved to visit San Francisco when it was great. But now I see these things that makes me not want to. But this is the type of things they want to bring across the country. And this is the point that Ron DeSantis is trying to drive home, is why Florida is much a red state like Florida. And the way his governing style is far better than a state like California in the way it's being run by Gavin Newsom. And he was right. They cleaned up the streets of San Francisco like that when they before President Xi was coming into town. It looked like the place was spotless, nearly spotless when he was coming to town. You know, why wouldn't they do it for their own people if they can do it for communist dictators? You see what I'm saying? So they can clean these problems up. They can fix it if they wanted to, but they don't. Let's keep going here.
Natural excuse me, sir. But one of the things that I did, I was talking to a gentleman, a couple.
Guys, I'm going to let the debate breathe, but it's his turn. Let's take turns.
So I was talking to a fella who had made the move from California to Florida, and he was telling me that Florida is much better governed, safer, better budget, lower taxes, all this stuff. And he's really happy with the quality of life. And then he paused and he said, by the way, I'm Gavin Newsom's father-in-law. So we do count Gavin's in-laws as some of the people that have fled California and come to the state of Florida. And why are we getting people to come? We have a 50-year low in the crime rate. You don't see, in the last 10 years, we've had a 45% decline in homelessness. California's had a 45% increase in homelessness. We back the blue. I was walking the streets of San Francisco a couple months ago, and I had some of the cops in San Francisco do a beeline to come over to me, and I didn't know what they were going to say. And they're like, we want to thank you for standing for law enforcement because we don't get that support in the state of California. So people understand quality of life matters. They understand that Florida's doing it right, and I can tell you the numbers speak for themselves. We have way more people moving to this state than leaving. Gavin can't say the opposite. More people are leaving California than are moving into California.
Let me bring up
coming to California the other way around the last 2 years. But let's talk about crime.
Governor, hold on. Governor, wait a minute. Hold on a second.
He said a lot of things that were factually untrue, including that 50-year crime low, which his own law enforcement team said you should not be using.
You have yet to address the issue, but I asked you twice. You don't want to answer it. But the issue of why the migration out of red states, out of blue states.
We just established more Floridians coming to California in the last 2 years than the
overall. You had a net loss of 7.
It's a fact.
Just asserted it.
It's a fact.
No, it's not a fact.
It is a fact.
Moving on. Let's go. Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Okay, Gavin Newsom did a lot of talking over. He didn't want to answer certain questions. Let's get to the issue of who's coming. Californians leaving, going to Florida, and vice versa. Who was right about this? Let's check it out. This is from the Okay, it says it's true that more Californians are moving to other U.S. states than moving in, and a greater number of people are moving into Florida than are leaving. The flow between California and Florida also favors the latter state. About 50,700 Californians became Florida residents from 2021 to 2022, according to data from the Census Bureau's American Community Survey. That's 22,100 more than the 28,600 Florida residents who moved to California. Keeps going. The Sacramento Bee added that in its own report, a record number of people are fleeing California for Florida. Further, the paper noted new data from the Census Bureau show that more people left California for Florida in 2022 than any year going back to at least 2005. An estimated 37,464 people left California for Florida in 2021, while 24,692 headed this way, California. A net gain of about 13,000 residents for Florida. The exodus to the southeast increased even more last year, the data shows. All right, Pollack noted that Newsom's reliance on per capita. This is where Newsom was saying that more people come to California, this and that, from Florida than vice versa. But this is where he gets his data from. Pollack noted that Newsom's reliance on per capita migration favored California because it is nearly twice as big as Florida in population. He referenced a study by Penn State University, which reviewed 2021 Census Bureau data that calculated 1.16 per 1,000 Floridians moved to California in 2021. On the other hand, 0.96 Californians relocated to Florida that year. Yet, as Newsom did not mention and Hannity did not ask, the Penn State study actually found that nearly 13,000 more Californians moved to Florida than the other way around. So Newsom's per capita claim emerged during his earlier tussle with Hannity back in June, which led the left-wing fact-checkers at PolitiFact to declare at the time that Newsom was right about more people leaving Florida for California. Or leaving, California for Florida for California. I'm sorry. Yes. So, yes, it says Newsom misses the point. Overall, California is losing residents and Florida is gaining them. He may not want to face the reasons for that, but he may as well admit that it is actually happening. And yes, it is happening. We're seeing it happen all the time. California has lost a lot of people in the past few years. Texas has gained residents. Florida has gained residents. Idaho has gained residents. Many red states have gained residents, and many blue states have lost residents. This is something that they don't want to admit. They try to spin it, but you look at the numbers and the proof is in the pudding. The red states are a place where people want to go to. People are moving to Alabama. People are moving to Georgia. People are moving to North Carolina, which is purple, kind of going red, but because there's more there's more freedoms out there, Second Amendment freedoms. Maybe they're more pro-life and easier to start a business, lower taxes. There are a lot of reasons. Another thing is when Newsom, there were statistics brought onto debate, gas prices, different things, taxes, and California was much higher than Florida, and Newsom really had no answer for it. Even when it came to crime, when the crime statistics were brought up, Newsom, said, well, when it said crime was was much higher. When Hannity showed the crime statistics being much higher in California than the national average and higher than Florida, Newsom's response was, well, if you look compared to the 1990s, we're down. Newsom's taking data from 1990s. We're not talking about the 90s. We're talking about in the past, the year over year. California has seen a big increase in crime. So you can't really spin that. I mean, I think DeSantis won this debate easily. Newsom got clobbered. He likes to talk over people. He wouldn't even answer the question at the end when Hannity asked him, what do you like about... He asked each governor. He asked DeSantis, what do you like about California? And then he asked Newsom, what do you like about Florida? DeSantis gave a very good response. He loves how beautiful it is, beautiful coastline, a lot of nature out there. And he loves what they've done with the military station installations out there. And he gave California some great compliments. He says it's probably the most beautiful place in the country. And then when Hannity asked Newsom, what do you love about Florida? He couldn't say anything. He went back to, I'm going to do whatever I can to support, make sure Biden Harris get reelected or get elected. Sorry, but yeah, I don't think he gave any good answers on anything. I mean, he may have thrown a couple of jabs in there, Ron DeSantis, about how neither of us are going to be a nominee, or you're going to be supporting Donald Trump for this nominee in a few weeks. Uh, yeah, that was a nice little jab, I guess. But he thinks Biden's doing a great job, and he said he would take Biden at 100 years old than DeSantis at any age. That's just ridiculous. Biden is not up for the task. He's senile. He's losing his mind. And I will give Ron credit where credit is due. Ron DeSantis did a great job. Like I said, he was measured. He came with the facts, and he represented our ideals, our where we stand on issues very well. Lower taxes. If you're pro-life, he fights for that. There were a lot of things: parental rights, crime. Ron DeSantis came with the facts, and he represented our side much better than Newsom did for that side. Like I said, he was talking over. He was, he didn't want to answer a lot of questions. Is what I'm trying to say. He didn't want to answer a lot of questions. He's talking over Ron DeSantis, and just kind of avoiding things. And I thought that he did not do that well of a job. Is this guy going to be the nominee? I don't know. I personally, I still think it's going to be Biden, but nobody knows. We'll see. A lot of people think it's going to be Newsom. He still didn't want to answer that question. When he asked Newsom, what do you say right now that you're not going to be a nominee? He kept saying, well, I'm just going to continue to support Biden and Harris. Make sure they serve another 4 years. So he was kind of skirting around that answer as well. But hey, I think overall it was great. A lot of people, look, there are people on the Trump side, and I'm a Trump supporter, and I've made that very known over the past. But there are people supporting Trump who wanted DeSantis to lose this debate. They were actually hoping Newsom cleaned his clock. I mean, come on. You can't just look. I understand you're supporting one candidate, but when it comes to the other team against somebody on our team, I think it's important to support the guy who's on our team. I don't dislike Ron DeSantis. I don't like the way he's gone about certain things with his campaign, and I think he should have waited till 2028. But I would vote for Ron DeSantis if I had. If he, let's say he wins the nomination, which I don't think he is. He's down 50 points in the polls. I think Trump's going to win a nomination easily. Or even say 2028, if Ron DeSantis becomes nominee in 2028. Yes, I would support Ron DeSantis. I would much rather have him as president than Gavin Newsom, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, anybody on the left. Because I think Ron DeSantis has done a great job in Florida. I think he's done a great job on parental rights and the Florida economy. Their inflation is high out there, but that's true, and they have some insurance issues. But by and large, I think he's done a very good job with the state of Florida with the Second Amendment, law enforcement, parental rights, like I said. And if you are pro-life, then yes, he's done a great job on that too. If you're not pro-life, then yeah, Florida may not be for you. There are other options for you. But yeah, he did a great job. I think he did a great job, and he won that debate. No questions asked. All right, that's my 2 cents on that. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Take care.